Okay, I'm finally doing it. This is a big one. I mean, quite literally, a big one. Yeah, this is actually a massively requested video. People have been asking me to do for ages, and to be honest, I just want to make another bad pun, but I can't really think of one. So just the one joke in this intro. The one joke. Okay, welcome to the Disney sequel show. Hope this is your first time watching, because I don't want to brag. This is as good as it gets. No, I mean, actually, it gets better. You should subscribe or something for more videos. I don't know. So, I'm not going to lie to you. I've kind of been putting off doing a video on the Tangled sequel stuff up until this point. Mostly because I always felt like this Disney sequel series was meant to dip into people's nostalgia, henceforth covering movies that people grew up with from the early 2000s. And Tangled was, at least to me, very recent. Maybe I'm just old, but I mean, Tangled Before Ever After came out on the 10th of March 2017. Back then I was doing Q&A videos discussing whether I thought Draco Malfoy was a good character or not. A period on my channel that happened, and I think is what people are referring to when they say, we want the old Seamus back, but I thought we'd clear this up. I'm the old Seamus now, like, that was young. Sorry, I'm rambling. Because this video exists, I clearly did watch Tangled Before Ever After, and, okay, this entire movie is just a setup for the Tangled TV show. So yeah, less importantly, but also a factor here, is that I've been pretty persistent that I don't want to watch one of those Disney Channel original TV shows for one of these videos. It perfectly leads into the series. I think. I haven't actually watched it. There are actually 65 episodes of this series. Not that I have any intention of watching. The 2 TV shows that I didn't bother to watch. But today, I'm breaking all the rules, because despite having 68 24-minute long episodes, accounting to 27 hours of my life, I didn't leave my bed for an entire weekend as I binged the entire thing on my phone, and oh my god, it was actually really good. Like, I don't know what to do with myself now I've finished. I don't think I've ever said this about a non-theatrically released Disney sequel before, but I would highly recommend this. Yeah, it might be a little childish for some people. The episodes, for the most part, have rather basic premises where the main character and focus learns some sort of lesson to do with morals and principles, and everyone lives happily ever after. You know, we'll get back into that, because I think the actual main overarching story between Tangled Before Ever After and Tangled Rapunzel's whatever it's called, is quite enjoyable, as it expands upon the lore from the original Tangled movie in quite an inventive way. And I think you can, and I'm going to draw comparisons to shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender or some of the Star Wars animated shows, where they're not really designed to be binged over a short period of time, because each of the episodes is their own individual thing and can be watched by a 6-year-old with their cereal on a Saturday morning. But then you also have those bigger episodes, the 2-3-parters that pull the story together, connecting it to the plot points of the more minor episodes. And while it's probably a little flattering to compare this to Avatar: The Last Airbender, there are a lot more fillers here, as well as just a few moments where I simply didn't like the direction it goes in, or the tone feels off and it slightly misses the mark for me. There's way more to be enjoyed than I'd anticipated. So for anyone who does enjoy shows like Avatar, The Clone Wars, Rebels, I'd say you should give it a go, and that this video will contain spoilers. Lots of spoilers, because this show was full of twists and turns. It was actually surprisingly good, which I know is leaving half of you thinking, yeah, we've been you, Seamus. We're the ones who've been telling you to watch it for a good part of a year, and I can only apologize for making you wait so long to see me delve into every aspect of these sequels, but hey, what's another minute? Because first, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, Sky Children of the Light. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with the critically acclaimed Sky mobile game. It's one of the most beautiful games to ever be released onto a phone, to the point where it doesn't even look like a mobile game. This looks too good! And ever since its release in 2019, the fans have been praying for it to be launched on, like, an actual games console, and I'm here to tell you that day is finally here, as Sky is officially now on the Switch. And being a live social adventure game that's best played with others, supporting up to 8 people on the screen, it's perfect to play with friends and family, and even new people that you might meet in the game, as you explore the 7 inventively designed realms and unearth the secrets of the Sky Kingdom. However, while clearly building on from and adding more features to the mobile version, it still retains the simplistic and peaceful qualities that made it so great. Meaning, if you're like me and aren't very good when it comes to having skill on the gaming front and prefer just to play to unwind, this is the perfect game where you can just escape from reality and fly through the skies with these incredible graphics that are simply captivating on the big screen. And the craziest part is, it's completely free to download on the Switch, and from now until the 19th of September, they're having their first ever collaborative season where you can enjoy the adventure Season of the Little Prince, starring Le Petit Prince. So make sure to check it out in the link in the description down below. It would help out the channel a lot. And with that, let's finally get into the thick of it and talk talk about the TV movie from 2017. Oh yeah. It's time for Tangled before ever after, and this journey's only beginning. Yeah, let's actually get into the video now. So, I know I've already made fun of this, but honestly, if I was to compare it to Disney's other straight-to-home video sequels, it's one of the better ones. Despite the fact it is just a setup for the TV show, I think it does a good job at doing its own thing while still paying tribute to the original, making lots of jokes and references relating to Tangled, and building the story from the main plot point in the original as well, but then not being completely overbearing to the point where you feel like you're watching one of my Toy Story videos. It's, you know, everyone's just like, oh my god, we get it, Seamus, they made some good films that time, but find something new to talk about. And I actually think the animation style really helps them here. I think this is the first straight-to-home video sequel I've covered where the original was animated in 3D, so naturally, I imagine in the interest of saving time, they reverted back to a hand-drawn style for this and the series. And while I wasn't actually the biggest fan of it during the movie, after finishing the show, I think this is what really gives it its identity. And there are particular moments where they use the 2D elements to their advantage, and in the end, I think it worked out as a really effective stylistic choice. I mean, I have my nitpicks, like how this was effectively another Disney princess movie about a princess adapting to princess. Like, how many more of these am I going to have to see before you're satisfied? And, you know, the classic, we need to feel sorry for the princess because she can't go out and see the real world cliche in there too. And then, to top it all off, my absolute favorite cliche of all time, Rapunzel and Eugene keep getting interrupted when they're about to kiss. I feel like I wouldn't even have a problem with it if you couldn't see it coming from a mile away every time. Who takes this long to lean in for a kiss? Happens every time. Okay, no, I'm fine. I don't have the energy to get angry about something so trivial today. And, you know, let's talk about things in this movie I didn't see coming, because you didn't see that transition coming, did you? And, you know, there are actually a few things I didn't see coming. Rapunzel saying no when Eugene asks to marry her? Okay, that wasn't very Disney sequel of you. I mean, I guess in hindsight, it was all happening a bit too early in the film and they needed a conflict in there, so you're kind of waiting for something to go wrong, but not like that. And then they had a twist villain that I didn't see coming. I don't think any Disney sequel has ever managed to catch me off guard with a twist villain. Like, I mean, maybe I have. Someone's probably going to reference, oh, actually, months ago, you said in this video that this... The point is, Lady Kane, the main villain in this film, she's not actually that important, to be honest, was actually introduced right at the start as a rude royal person Rapunzel meets, and then suddenly she's the bad guy they've been alluring to. It actually got me. We must be, what, 40 films into this series, and they finally got me. But you bet, I was sat up and not letting them get me again. And then I watched the TV show, which had the audacity to catch me off guard with 2 more twist villains. They can't keep getting away with this! But on a genuine note, I'm just grateful they didn't do what I would have guessed they were going to do and bring Mother Gothel back somehow, because, I mean, magic exists in this universe. They could have found a way to do it if they wanted to. And I know they do obviously bring her back a couple times in the show, and I'll get back into that a bit more later, but I think it's handled extremely well, as it's purely done through flashbacks, nightmares, and offspring. Again, all in all, I think it's dealt with really well, and it holds up on the fan service to new, original, creative ideas ratio. That is a real thing that I definitely didn't just make up. It's a 4 on the scale. And instead we have this collection of new, mysterious villains who don't really actually come into the story that much, to be completely honest with you. Because all the focus is to do with Rapunzel's hair growing back and creating these spiky black rocks. And my only real critique of Lady Kane is that I thought she was going to be more important to the actual show. Like, I mean, her literal final line in the film is,
"You think this is over? Ha! I promise you, I'll be back!"
And like, when? I mean, yeah, I guess you came back for 1 episode a season, but 1 episode a season? I thought you were going to be like some big bad, and I think that's probably more of a critique of the show than anything, but it just feels like there's wasted potential there. However, I think the final fight scene as Rapunzel gets to use her hair again to take Lady Kane down is really cool, and then ending the film on quite a bitter note as Rapunzel sings a sad song about wanting to live her life. Again, this wasn't very Disney sequel-like. However, as a whole, I do feel like this is just kind of an hour of setting everything into place for the TV show, so I don't think I can really give it much more than a 5.8 out of 10. Like, I'm probably looking a bit cynically at it right now because I have seen the TV show, but there are loads of moments where I'm like, oh, okay, so did that happen because it was the natural thing to happen, or did it have to happen to get the TV show in place? Like, genuinely, I don't think a single one of the king's decisions in this movie makes sense or fit with his character from Tangled. Like, I don't know how to put this, but your daughter was traumatically kidnapped and she is now back in your life. She gets a free pass to do and say whatever she wants for the rest of her life. And I get being protected, but there are just times where he's outright rude to her. So when he plays his hand of hardball at the end of it, I don't know what I was trying to say there. It feels like it's being shoehorned in for the sake of stirring up drama for Rapunzel's Tangled, the series, adventure. Yeah, I still don't know what to call this, to be honest with you. Like, I think they changed the name, but Tangled the series is a way better name than Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure. Like, that doesn't roll off the tongue at all. There's like, what, 8 syllables in there? Why did you change it? I mean, I looked it up and I can't find the answers anywhere. Okay, I did just Google it, but that's usually enough. Fine, I'm sorry. I'm not going to address the name change again in this video, okay? Tangled this show is great. And guys, I feel like I've already said that, so, you know what? I've already given some general thoughts. I need to structure this video, which I never do, but we're going to talk about this season by season. So naturally, we're going to start with season 2. No, we're not actually. That was a joke. I call that a joke. It wasn't funny, so I guess, no, that was just, let's just get into season 1. So I think the first season does what it needs to do really effectively. Like, it takes what the movie sets up for it and well and truly comes into its own. Major elements like the aforementioned drama between Rapunzel and her father not letting her leave Corona or have her own adventure, which makes this not very much of a Rapunzel's You had characters like Cassandra introduced, who I found to be the perfect dark contrast to Rapunzel's bright and bubbly personality. She has her own motivations that often differ from Rapunzel's, and in the series, her father, the captain of the guard, is also an important character, so therefore we get to delve into their relationship and her aspirations to be the captain of the guard herself, meaning when she and Rapunzel go out and, well, yeah, there's huge stakes on her end because she also has things to lose, and the first real conflict in the show is set into motion because she doesn't trust Eugene from the movie, leading to them going behind his back in the first episode. I'd say at times there's an argument to be made that some of the main characters' personalities might be a little bit too straightforward and almost one-dimensional. I mean, there's literally an episode in this season where they basically admit that each character only has one personality trait each, as they all magically revert to being the opposites of themselves. And Rapunzel's character is definitely borderline annoyingly too nice in some of the episodes, but for the first time we get to see her having to deal with real human issues, leading to her breaking promises and lying to people at times. And I think the show is at its absolute best when she actually gets angry, and we see these different sides to her that we don't see in Tangled or Before Ever After, which then, the final important thing that's introduced in that is the main story with the black spiky rock thingies that we know are connected to Rapunzel in some way, but not really sure how, and it just kind of left as a mysterious, oh, well, that can't be good, surely. And then we learn in this season, or I guess more so in the later ones, that while Rapunzel's power came from this pure and good drop of sunlight, there was also a dark and evil moonstone that also exists, which feels thematically appropriate to me. Like, this kind of yin and yang, there can't be good without bad in the universe, and needs a balance, is very typical in popular media, aka Star Wars. And I think this really nicely complements Tangled, where the stories are polar opposite, but in kind of a perfect way. And my biggest criticism of season 1 was that I was waiting for them to explore this storyline, and it took them 16 episodes to finally make one about the rocks. And we'll get to that episode in a bit, because Queen for a Day is great, but it almost felt like there were 15 filler episodes between that and the movie, because it's more of a slice of life in Corona show up until that point. And don't get me wrong, that's fine. Some of the episodes are really fun, particularly the ones where they delve into a character's backstory, or when they introduce a new important character like Varian or Lance Strongbow. They're some of the better episodes in the series, but it's very hit and miss, because they also have episodes that follow very basic and stereotypical TV storylines that I've seen 100 times before, to do with this character who everyone likes has to learn to deal with someone not liking them. 2 characters who don't get along end up getting locked in a room together and are forced to work together. A science fair episode where an experiment goes awfully wrong. You get the point. And they aren't even the worst of them. Like, at least there are some cool cameos and the main characters get a bit of development in there, whether that be learning not everyone's going to like you or some sort of teamwork related thing, whereas there are some episodes that just feel completely pointless. Like, I did not need to watch an entire episode of Rapunzel freeing the ghost that haunts the snuggly duckling, or that one revolving around Max getting shown up by a new horse who turns turns out to be an evil. None of that was important, and I feel as they get into the later seasons, when they're building towards things over the course of them, this happens less. But in season 1, they kind of just ignore the storylines to do with Rapunzel's hair and the black spiky rock thingies for most of it, and that's what brings us to Queen for a Day, which is just one of the best episodes, because here, it gets real. No longer is it just a fun little show. Corona's been hit by a blizzard, and right from the off they imply the king and queen have been killed. Obviously, they were never actually going to be dead, but immediately the tensions are rising, and this creates a great plot device to separate the characters. Then, in the meantime, Varian, who's actually trying to deal with the Black Rocks, has an experiment backfire with his dad, leading to him needing Rapunzel's help, putting her in a genuinely difficult situation, and she has to break her promise to Varian, which is huge because, you know, Rapunzel's whole...
And when I promise something, I never, ever break that promise.
Thing. And it's just the perfect villain origin story for Varian. Like, when we meet him in the first episode, I would have never guessed he'd become evil. And of course, we learn he never really was. He was just a kid who completely understandably made some rash decisions after feeling like he'd been betrayed. But it's the ramifications from this episode setting up the rest of the story, particularly from Rapunzel's perspective, as she feels completely traumatized by everything, that makes it so good. And from here on out to the rest of the season, the episodes are really strong. We get our first real introduction to Xantiri in the very next episode, and then in search to discover the secrets of the Black Rocks, they destroy Mother Gothel's tower. And just what a moment that is. It feels like such a let the past die. Forget about Tangled. This is the Tangled... Wait, no, she goes on an adventure after this. It's Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure! And I think the conclusion to Varian's story of Rapunzel using the black spiky rocks to defeat him adds another layer of mystique to her connection to them. And then finally her father letting her go and uncover this mystery and work out what's really going on. Perfectly leading into season 2. Now I'm just gonna say it. This is my favorite season of the show. A lot of my issues with season 1 and the amount of kind of just forgettable episodes, I think boils down to it all taking place in Corona, which might have led to it falling short of ideas at times, but by season 2, they well and truly have a mystery to solve. And I think this is probably where it starts to give off more Last Airbender vibes, because they have this end goal of a place they're trying to get to, while still being structured with these standalone episodes as they visit places and improve the lives of the people there. Now, that's not to say it's perfect. I think it still has some of the weirdest episodes of the lot, like when they get turned into birds, or Pascal being C-3PO'd as the king of some obscure island, then Hookfoot falls in love with a mermaid. To be honest, none of the episodes on that island are very good, but when they're on their way back and Max and Eugene get stuck on a prison ship, top tier. That is the best standalone filler episode. It's got a fun, fan-servicey premise. There's the bit with the Law and Order book. Hilarious! And actually, something that surprised me is that this series was generally quite funny. Like, usually a problem I have with kids shows is you've kind of already worked out the punchline before they've even set the joke up, and that does happen, but there's still about 2 moments per episode that make me go... in absolute hysterics, like particularly in season 1 with the guards, Pete and Stan, and then as they cut the core group of characters down a bit, Lance gets a bigger role, and his dynamic with Eugene is just fantastic. But then, on that note, well, I'm not actually sure if these two things are connected, but I didn't find the new characters introduced in this season to be nearly as fun. Like, no matter what I did, I couldn't get invested in Adira. She has a cool weapon, and I can't for the life of me work out why she didn't just join them for their journey so we could actually get to know her rather than just popping up every now and again. Like, even the characters in the show didn't like her. I mean, she provided a good red herring for who was inevitably going to end up betraying Rapunzel at the end, but other than that, what was she even there for? And also, we finally get to meet the Baron in this season, who's alluded to a couple times in season 1, and I think he's completely forgettable. Like, this is a big crime boss, and the most interesting thing about him is that his daughter Stallion is Flynn's ex, which is another thing that I thought would make a really interesting dynamic. Like, Rapunzel has no real enemies other than Monty, I guess. And we've just met a character who she actually has a good reason not to like, as they actively want to marry her boyfriend, but then when Stallion returns later on in the season, they become friends? Just feels like a missed opportunity. Then there's the fortune teller monkey, which I feel kind of speaks for itself. I mean, by his third appearance, I was literally like, please stop bringing this character back, and then it turned out he was actually Demanitus, another huge and powerful character they've been alluding to from the start. What? I mean, I didn't see it coming, so you've got that going for you. And yeah, I don't know if cutting down the core group of characters played a part here, because by this point I was fully emotionally invested in the main characters. They had my heart and there was no room for anyone else. But then I thought the Brotherhood as a collective for the most part was pretty cool. I love the backstory with the cursed tower, and then Eugene meeting his father, finally getting his own backstory at the end of season 2. That's huge! So yeah, once again, I think this season really comes into its own after the big two-parter about 15 episodes in. This time with Rapunzel and the Great Tree, as we learn more about the Brotherhood and the secrets of the Moonstone, leading to Rapunzel discovering a new power she possesses through this dark magic parallel song. Something I didn't know I wanted, but I needed it. Her hair turns black. So cool. And there's actual consequences in there, as Rapunzel, now consistently going against Cassandra's well-intended advice, starts breaking the trust they've built, and the cracks in their relationship begin to show, which ends up causing Cassandra to burn her hand off while trying to help her. And I mean, since characters don't usually die in these kind of shows, an incident like this is about as consequential as it gets. And then, as I've already covered, the standalone episodes from here to the finale are really strong. I loved the return of Tower Rapunzel as Cassandra accidentally makes her forget everything. Like, it's so funny to see how Cassandra would have dealt with everything if she'd been in Eugene's shoes. And I think the episode does a really good job of developing their relationship, showing this bond they have, and why, even after what just happened, it wouldn't make sense for one of them to betray the other. I mean, what? We haven't got there yet. I also really like the episodes in the House of Yesterday's Tomorrow, specifically the one with the mirror. That was full of twists and turns. And it really starts to cement Xantiri into the show as the big villain. And then, of course, you've got Rapunzeltopia, where we see this alternate dream reality of what could have happened in Before Ever After. Then finally, we have the finale, as implied by final, which I think might be my favorite episode in the series. The story with Eugene and his dad, King Edmund, who is just the perfect piece of fan service. Like, he's exactly what I would want Eugene's dad to be, and by far my favorite of the new characters in this season. And he convinces Eugene to be the one to betray Rapunzel as the fortune foretold. Except, no, that was another red herring. They got me again. But I'm sorry, what? No. I'm not having this. Firstly, it came out of nowhere, but apparently Cassandra is evil now. Let's just get into season 3. Like, maybe I'm just emotional here. Usually I try to watch things at least twice before I make a video on them, and in this case, I didn't. It's quite long, I don't know if I've mentioned, and I actually want to watch it again after I finish this video just for fun, because I really enjoyed it. But right now, I'm still annoyed because they've done Cassandra dirty here. Yes, she's a little cold, but in a snarky would let her ruin my entire life just to make her smile once kind of way. And I'll admit, when I first watched Before Ever After, I put my little theory hat on and thought, she does kind of look like a young Mother Gothel. And it's an amazing backstory. The best in the entire show, I'd say, making her and Rapunzel quite literally sisters. Kind of. And yeah, it's sad, but I'm sorry, it's not that deep. And what she does after she's reminded of it does not make sense with the character we knew before that moment. Like, I was waiting the entire season for them to reveal, oh, it wasn't actually Cassandra that came out of the door at the House of Yesterday's Tomorrow. Or actually Xantiri has possessed her and been controlling her this entire time. It's implied there is some truth to that second one, but Cassandra still was in control. She was just being manipulated. And it's ironic because I was so full of praise of how they did Varian as a twist villain, introducing him as an innocent boy and then having everyone turn their back on him, causing him to drift down the wrong path. However, this is almost the complete opposite, where you meet this character with a very hard shell who we're not sure whether we should trust or not, especially given her rocky relationship with Eugene. But then, as the show goes on, you learn that she's actually very kind and compassionate. So turning on Rapunzel like this feels like such a stab in the back, and maybe I just got too emotionally attached to the characters and also feel personally betrayed by Cassandra, but more than anything, this season really made me realize that Rapunzel and Cassandra's relationship carries this show, because it was just sad. And yes, I know they make up at the end, so it's all water under the bridge, but we have to get through an entire season of Cassandra doing evil stuff and then cut to Rapunzel having fun in Corona. Like, it's very clear that they're trying to keep the show positive so each of the episodes works as a standalone for the kids watching, and therefore kind of force happy endings into these episodes. But it's so frustrating, at least for me, having Rapunzel just get on with her normal life but not addressing how losing her best friend made her feel, at least not on screen.
At first, I felt so betrayed. After all, Cass is my best friend, and I love her.
Really? You're gonna end the episode there? Anyway, mini rant aside, this season is much more reminiscent of the first. They're back in Corona, mostly. You know, they obviously had to return to that weird island for a bit. Leading to my annoyance with them not addressing the overarching story is to make a bunch of filler episodes multiplied by 10, because, I mean, at least in the first one, they had the excuse of, well, we don't really know what these rocks are, so we're just gonna kind of leave them until they become a problem. In the meantime, this is what we're up to. But this time, Corona has been overthrown. Temporarily. The king and queen have lost their memories. The captain of the guard has fled. The black rocks are still an ever-present issue, and of course, Rapunzel's best friend now wants to kill everyone. Oh, sorry. Destroy everyone. You see, kid shows aren't actually allowed to say the word kill, and honestly, it's one of my favorite things to try and see them dance around it. Like, Jay, if you ever watch a kid show, watch them try and dance around using the word kill. It's really funny. Okay, no, it's not. Actually, however, believe it or not, I don't actually think the episodes this season are that bad. They all become a lot more magic focused after season 1, which, as seen in season 2 and continued on here, gives them a lot more room to be creative with the storylines and therefore makes the episodes more interesting, in my opinion. And yes, we get a time travel episode with a fixed timeline executed to perfection! Like, I know I said another one was the best solo episode before this, but I take it back, it's this one, and just, there's a lot more fan service and revisiting aspects from the earlier seasons and Tangled itself throughout this season. As Mother Gothel comes back for a few episodes, we return to the Spire, meaning Calliope was also back, and I was overjoyed about that. King Trevor is in a weird episode where he tries to seduce the queen. Eugene's dad is actually given a main part, which is amazing because their chemistry, top notch. And then, as quite a drastic change of pace, we get an entire flashback episode as they revisit the time Rapunzel and Cassandra first met, which I think is a great episode concept because we get to see that Cassandra did and still should selflessly care about Rapunzel, but for some reason she doesn't anymore. Like, at times I'm not even sure the writers of the show knew how to portray Cassandra this season, because there are moments where I think they want me to think she's evil, but then they also don't make her do anything unredeemable because she was always inevitably going to get redeemed at the end. And it's a shame because the first time I really understand her actions in the entire season is in the penultimate episode, where she actually starts thinking for herself, realizing how much Xantiri is manipulating her, and then seeks out Rapunzel. But then she's almost ashamed and afraid Rapunzel won't forgive her. And therefore, when it's been made to look like Rapunzel's attacked her at the end, you can see why she'd be defensive and lash out. Because for the first time, her hope that Rapunzel still believed in her is gone. So I'm absolutely here for her destroying Corona at the end. And then I think the final episode, it's basically just like another TV movie, really holds up. Yeah, some of the plot lines, like them all turning into monkeys, feel a little silly and just there to give them a hurdle, like any hurdle. Seriously, give us a hurdle! But I really love the backstory of Xantiri and Demanitus and the Lost Realm. Very cool. It does go on too long though. Also, Max, after kind of being sidelined throughout this series, finally gets his moment to shine as he fights off the brainwashed Brotherhood. And then Cassandra, after a season of I don't know what you're doing, apologizes to Rapunzel. They team up together to take down Xantiri, just like old times, except it's their first time taking down Xantiri. They're teaming up, just like old times. They're not, you get what I mean. And it pretty much has the same ending as Tangled, you know, with a few more explosions. Oh, and also, Cassandra decides to flee the kingdom, despite resolving things with Rapunzel, I think purely because we know she wasn't at the wedding due to a short film they made in 2012. But I'm sorry, decanonize this short. This feels like you don't know what to do with her ending. And no, saying
everyone found exactly where they were meant to be
doesn't explain or mean anything to anyone. I'm fine, though all the other endings and arcs were actually really nice. It's just Cassandra deserved better. And honestly, I was gonna give this somewhere in the 8.5 to 9 out of 10 range, but after that final season left a slightly bitter taste in my mouth, I'm only going to give it an 8 out of 10. Only. That's still a really good score. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. You should still go watch it if you haven't seen it already. But also, I've just spoiled everything. So why did you watch it? I told you not to watch. I told you to watch it before getting it spoiled. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and watch another video and check out my Patreon in the description down below. Yeah, that's all. Thanks. I'll see you guys next time, unless this is the last time you ever watch me, then I won't see you next time.